close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you're sitting in a quiet kitchen. It is early in the morning. You hold a warm cup of coffee or tea in your hands. You pick up a small spoon. You reach for a bowl filled with white, sparkling crystals. You take just one spoonful and stir it into your drink. That small action feels so normal, doesn't it? We do it every single day. We find sugar in our morning cereal. We find it in the bread we eat for lunch. We find it in the sweet chocolate we enjoy after a long day of work. Today, sugar is everywhere. It is in our cabinets, our cafes, and our celebrations. It is a quiet part of our lives that we almost never think about. But my friends, have you ever stopped to wonder, where did it all begin? Where did this white gold come from? Before it was in every grocery store, it was a mystery. It was a secret kept by nature in faraway lands. It was a medicine, a luxury, and a reason for kings to go to war. Sugar has a story that is much bigger than a kitchen spoon. It is a story that changed the world. It changed the way people lived and how they moved across the earth. It is a story of great beauty and deep sadness. It is a story of human discovery and a story of great pain. So tonight, let's sit together by the fire. Let's look at that sparkling crystal a little more closely. Let's go back in time, thousands of years ago. We're going to travel across oceans and through deep jungles. We're going to follow the path of a simple plant that changed the course of human history. Are you ready? Then let's begin our journey. Let's find out how the world became so sweet. Our story starts a very long time ago. We must travel to the warm, green islands of the South Pacific and the bright lands of India. Imagine a tall, strong grass growing in the tropical sun. This is sugarcane. At first, people did not have bags of white sugar. Instead, they discovered a secret inside the tall stalks of this grass. If you chew on the stalk, a sweet juice comes out. It was like a gift from the earth. For the ancient people of New Guinea, sugarcane was more than just food. Some of their old stories say that sugarcane was the beginning of the human race. It was a sacred plant. Over many years, the plant traveled. It moved from the islands to the big country of India. Here, thousands of years ago, people learned a special trick. They learned how to squeeze the juice from the cane. Then, they boiled the juice over a hot fire. As the water moved away into the air as steam, something magical happened. The juice turned into brown, crunchy crystals. They called it khanda. This is where our modern word candy comes from. In ancient India, sugar was not something you used every day. It was very rare. People used it as a powerful medicine. Doctors thought it could heal the body and bring back energy. They also used it in religious ceremonies to honor their gods. Think about that for a moment. To the ancient world, sugar was a holy spice. It was a miracle from the soil. It stayed a secret in the East for a long time. People in Europe or Africa had no idea it existed. They used honey from bees to make things sweet. But whispers of this honey without bees began to travel. Traders and travelers started to talk about a wonderful plant in the East. They told stories of a grass that could create the taste of heaven. Slowly, very slowly, the secret of sugar began to move west. A long journey was about to begin. As the centuries passed, the secret of sugar moved like a slow river. Around the year 600 or 700, the Islamic world began to grow and spread. With this growth came a great love for science, art, and farming. Arabic traders and farmers found the sugarcane plant in India. They were amazed by it, but they did not just keep it the way it was. They wanted to make it better. They were like the scientists of the ancient world. They studied how the plant grew. They realized that sugarcane is a very thirsty plant. It needs a lot of water and a lot of heat. So, they built amazing systems to move water from rivers to their fields. They created big farms in places like Egypt, Syria, and Spain. Imagine big stone wheels turning, powered by water or animals, to crush the cane. Imagine large kitchens where the juice was cleaned and boiled many times. The people of the Islamic world became masters of sugar. They learned how to make the sugar very clean and white. It became a valuable treasure. It was no longer just a medicine. It was a way to show wealth. If you visited a great city like Baghdad or Cairo back then, you would see amazing things made of sugar. For big parties, the leaders would have artists build entire trees or animals made of sugar. Can you imagine a palace made of candy? It was a symbol of power and success. Because it was so difficult to grow and make, sugar was very expensive. It was like a precious jewel that you could eat. It traveled along the famous Silk Road. It was traded for silk, gold, and spices. Through these trade routes, sugar was moving closer and closer to the cold lands of Europe. The people of the West were about to have their first taste. And once they tasted it, their world would never be the same. They would want more, and they would do anything to get it. Imagine you are a knight from Europe. The year is 1100. You have traveled far from your home in England or France to the Middle East during the Crusades. Everything is new to you. The sun is hotter. The colors are brighter. And then someone offers you a taste of something strange. It is a small white crystal. You put on your tongue. In an instant, your world changes. You have never tasted anything like this. In Europe, you only have honey, which would be hard to find and has a strong taste. But this sweet salt is pure. It is like a spark of light in your mouth. When these knights and travelers returned home, they told stories of this magic powder. They called it the new spice. Soon, the kings and queens of Europe wanted it for their own tables. But there was a problem. Europe was too cold for sugarcane. The plant would not grow in the rainy fields of London or the snowy mountains of Germany. This meant that every single grain of sugar had to be brought from far away. Because it was so hard to get, sugar became the ultimate luxury. It was only for the richest people in the world. A small bag of sugar could cost as much as a horse or a servant's wages for a year. At royal banquets, sugar was used to show off. The king's cooks would make subtleties. These were beautiful sculptures made of sugar. They made sugar crowns, sugar flowers, and even sugar plates. They didn't always eat them. They just looked at them to show how rich they were. Rich people even used sugar so much that their teeth turned black. Surprisingly, having black teeth became a fashion. It showed everyone that you were wealthy enough to buy sugar. But as the demand grew, the price stayed high. The leaders of Europe began to look for a way to grow sugar themselves. They wanted their own sweet gold mines. They began to look across the dark, wide Atlantic Ocean. They were looking for a new world, and sugar was one of the reasons why. The year is 1493. Christopher Columbus is preparing for his second voyage to the Americas. He has many things on his ships: animals, tools, and seeds. Among those seeds are small pieces of sugarcane. He is taking them to the islands he found in the Caribbean. Columbus knew that the islands were hot and sunny. He hoped the soil would be perfect for sugar. And he was right. When the sugarcane was planted in the Caribbean, it didn't just grow, it exploded. It grew taller and faster than it ever did in the East. Suddenly, the kings of Spain, Portugal, England, and France saw a golden opportunity. They realized that these islands, like Jamaica, Cuba, and Barbados, could become sugar machines. They called sugar white gold. They began to clear the beautiful, thick jungles to make room for huge farms called plantations. Imagine thousands of acres of tall green grass waving in the sea breeze. It looked like a paradise. But there was a dark side to this promise. Growing sugar is very, very hard work. It is not like growing wheat or apples. Sugar cane is heavy. It has sharp leaves that can cut your skin. And once you cut the cane, you have to rush. The juice inside starts to go bad in only one day. You must crush it, boil it, and watch it over a hot fire in the middle of a tropical summer. It is dangerous and exhausting work. The Europeans did not want to do this work themselves. They wanted the profit, but they did not want the sweat and the pain. This led to a choice. It was a choice that would bring a shadow over the world for hundreds of years. The New World promised wealth and sweetness, but to get it, the explorers and owners turned to a system of cruelty. The story of sugar was about to turn from a dream into a nightmare. We must pause here, my friends. We must talk about a part of history that is very painful. We cannot talk about the history of sugar without talking about the people who actually made it. As the sugar plantations grew larger and larger in the Americas, the owners needed more workers. At first, they tried to use the local people of the islands, but many of them died from diseases or overwork. Then, the Europeans looked toward Africa. This was the start of the transatlantic slave trade. Over several hundred years, millions of men, women, and children were taken from their homes in Africa. They were put on crowded, terrible ships and sent across the ocean. Many did not survive the journey. Those who did survive were forced to work on the sugar plantations. Their lives were incredibly difficult. They worked from sunrise to sunset under the hot sun. They cut the cane with heavy knives. They worked near boiling vats of sugar juice that could cause terrible burns. Think of the sadness in this. The sugar that made the tea of a lady in London sweet was made with the tears and blood of a person in chains. Every sweet cake served in a palace had a story of a family broken apart in Africa. Sugar was the main reason for slavery in the Americas. More people were enslaved for sugar than for tobacco or even cotton. The plantations were like factories, and the human beings were treated like machines. The owners became some of the richest people in history. They built beautiful mansions and bought fine clothes. But back on the islands, the workers had nothing. They lived in small huts and had no freedom. It is a bitter truth, isn't it? Something that tastes so sweet can have such a dark history. It reminds us that our choices and the things we enjoy often have a human cost. As we look at the sugar in our homes today, we should remember those who suffered in the fields long ago. Their story is a part of the sugar's legacy, and it is a story we must never forget. As we move into the 1800s, the world began to change again. This was the time of the Industrial Revolution. Great machines were being built. Steam engines were puffing smoke into the sky. And these changes reached the sugar fields too. New inventions made it easier to crush the cane and boil the juice. Scientists also found a new way to get sugar. They discovered that a vegetable called the sugar beet could grow in cold places like France and Germany. Now, Europe didn't have to wait for ships from the Caribbean. They could grow sugar in their own backyards. Because of these machines and the sugar beet, something amazing happened. The price of sugar began to fall. For thousands of years, sugar was only for the rich. It was a luxury. But now, for the first time in history, the common person could afford it. The factory worker in a gray city could put a lump of sugar in his tea. A mother could bake a sweet treat for her children's birthday. Sugar moved from the palace to the pantry. It became a staple food, something that everyone has in their house, like bread or salt. At the same time, the world was changing its mind about slavery. Brave people began to speak out against the cruelty of the plantations. They told the stories of the workers. Eventually, slavery was ended in the British Empire and later in the Americas. But even without slavery, the demand for sugar kept growing. It was no longer just a treat. It was becoming a huge part of the human diet. People were starting to eat sugar every single day, in almost every meal. Jam, chocolate, soda, and biscuits became popular. Sugar was giving people energy for their long days in the factories. It was the fuel of the modern world. But as we will see, having too much of a good thing can lead to new problems. The world was now hooked on sugar, and our bodies were not ready for it. Now we come to our own time. Look around a modern grocery store. You will see sugar in places you don't expect. It is in the tomato sauce. It is in the salad dressing. It is in the healthy yogurt. Today, the average person eats much more sugar than our grandparents did. In the past, sugar was a special treat for a holiday. Now, it is a constant part of our lives. But this modern sweetness has brought new challenges. Doctors and scientists are worried. They tell us that eating too much sugar can lead to health problems, like heart disease and diabetes. Our bodies love the taste of sugar because, long ago, sweet things were rare and gave us quick energy. But today, we have too much energy and not enough movement. Because of these health concerns, many people are trying to change. We see sugar-free drinks and snacks. We see people using honey again or new plants like stevia. The world is trying to find a balance. The sugar industry is still huge. It is a multi-billion-dollar business that connects the whole world. Brazil, India, and China are now the biggest producers. The way sugar is grown is also changing. Farmers are trying to find ways to grow it that are better for the earth and fairer for the workers. We're also learning more about the psychology of sugar. Have you ever noticed how a sweet snack makes you feel happy for a moment, but then you feel tired later? That is the sugar crash. We're learning that sugar is a powerful substance that affects our brains and our moods. So, we find ourselves at a crossroads. We love the sweetness, but we know the risks. We have the history of the world in our sugar bowl, and now we have to decide how to use it. It is a choice we make every time we sit down to eat. It is about finding the sweet spot, the place where we can enjoy the magic of sugar without letting it control our health or our lives. Our journey is coming to an end. We have traveled a long way, haven't we? We started in the green jungles of ancient islands, chewing on a wild grass. We saw how it became a holy medicine in India and a royal luxury in the Islamic world. We followed the knights who brought it to Europe and the explorers who took it to the New World. We looked into the dark shadows of the plantations and saw the high price that millions of people paid for this sweetness. And we saw how the Industrial Revolution brought sugar to every table in the world. Sugar is more than just a chemical or a food. It is a mirror of human history. It shows our curiosity and our ability to invent. It shows our desire for beauty and comfort. But it also shows our greed and our capacity for cruelty. When you look at a simple sugar cube now, I hope you see more than just a white square. I hope you see the sunshine of the Caribbean. I hope you hear the whispers of the ancient traders. I hope you remember the strength of the people who work the fields. History is not just in books. It is in the things we touch, the things we wear, and the things we taste. Sugar is a part of us. It has shaped our cultures, our economies, and our very bodies. So, the next time you stir a spoonful of sugar into your tea, take a moment. Feel the warmth of the cup. Smell the steam. And as you take that first sweet sip, remember the long, incredible journey of the white gold. Think about the balance of life, the sweet and the bitter. We cannot have one without the other. Our history is a mix of both, and so is our future. Thank you for traveling through time with me tonight. May your life have just the right amount of sweetness, and may you always stay curious about the stories behind the things we love. Until next time, my friends, sleep well and stay sweet.